Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a little behind the scenes of our new track Separate World off of our EP Utopia 1. So this song is probably the oldest song that exists on Utopia 1. It was written in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. At the time, I was in Brooklyn in New York alone, packing up our apartment because we just decided to move to Germany, and so I was there alone packing up because, you know, with a kid trying to pack up all your stuff in an apartment is kind of crazy, and I just felt, you know, we decided that it would be easier if I just did it, and then I could sort of work half the day on music and pack the rest of the day. It was first half of the day pack, then work on music. And so, you know, I'd be packing up our apartment first half of the day, which on the one hand was a weird sort of emotional experience, feeling like we'd be saying goodbye to New York in this weird way in the middle of a pandemic. And on the other hand, emotional, but it also felt good to sort of be alone for a bit and have, you know, just be with my own thoughts and stuff. And so then I'd go in the evening, you know, late afternoon, I'd head into the studio, I'd bike through Bedford side. So we were living in Prospect Heights in Brooklyn, and I'd bicycle through Bedford Stuyvesant, the Bedford Stuyvesant neighborhood, which is an absolutely beautiful neighborhood, beautiful tree-lined streets, brownstones, and the studio that I was working out of was in Bushwick, and so I would have this, you know, bicycle ride to the studio and back every day, once sort of in the late afternoon, and then once in the very, very early morning. Because, you know, sometimes, like being a parent, you don't get to work super late nights very often because, you know, your kids just wake up early. And if you work super late nights, you just don't get enough sleep, basically. And so I took this opportunity to just shift my clock a bit and just work late at night. Because sometimes I feel like different things come out in the middle of the night than when you work during the day. It's just a different energy. And it's good to use those energies in a complementary way if you can. So I would go into the studio, and I remember on this particular day I went in and I was doing this thing where I was eating one meal a day. I don't know why. I just sort of decided to try just like eating one massive meal per day. It was sort of I don't know, it was just like an experiment to see how it went. Like, you know, so I would eat one huge meal at 4 p.m. every day, not holding back, just have everything. And then just not eat for the rest of the evening and not eat the next day when I woke up. And I was actually losing weight doing that, even though I was having dessert and just everything I possibly wanted. So on this particular day, I went and had a meal at a restaurant that was just around the corner from where the studio was, called Guadalupe Inn, I think it was called. Really, really great Mexican restaurant. And when I was sitting there, I heard there was a track playing overhead by, I think it was a track by the band Neu, who was like a German krautrock band. And it had basically this beat that essentially is what Separate World starts with. It's just kind of like dun, 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 just going for like ages, and just kind of just this repetitive thing. And I've come up with a few songs this way, where I hear a song kind of where I can't really hear it. It's like in the distance, and I'm hearing it totally wrong because it's not loud enough for me to really be able to pick out the details, but it somehow connects to something in my brain and inspires a whole song out of this kind of almost like broken telephone effect. And so then I started hearing the song Separate World out of this like song that I was barely hearing in the background. I think it was Neu. It might not have been. And so I finished my meal, and delicious Mexican food, something I very much miss here in Germany. And I went back to the studio, and, you know, it was like 7 p.m. and I had a whole night of work ahead of me, and I just started sketching out this idea, and it felt really good to me. But then, you know, I probably spent that night, maybe a little bit of the next day working on it, and then it sort of just never went anywhere for a while. It sat there, and in the back of my mind, I felt like I had something good in the song. Like there was just something, like a good vibe, but there were a bunch of other songs that were taking the foreground for me at the time that I was excited about and working on. And so the song just never went anywhere for a while. And then after we moved back to Germany, moved to Germany because I'd never lived in Germany before that. We were working on all this new music that we've spoken about it in some of these other videos where we were feeling really good. We were writing a bunch of new music. We already had basically an album behind us. And we were working on all these songs. And I think by the stage we'd written The Golden Age, we'd written Another Lifetime and Rocket on My Feet. And everything was feeling really good. And I remember we went snowboarding in Davos, which is a ski resort here in Switzerland, not too far from us, a few hours away from us. And there was one day where I was snowboarding. I don't know if I was snowboarding by myself or what was happening, but it wasn't a whole day, it was a few hours. And the song, A Separate World, just kept going around and around in my head. And suddenly I was like hearing all these other layers. And it's so interesting to me because sometimes, this often happens to me with a song where I'll work on it and I won't really know exactly where to go with it. And instead of forcing it, it's something I've learned over the years, I used to really try and force it, which actually almost never resulted in something that I loved at the end of the day. So now instead of forcing it, I just kind of like leave it, rather than just sticking salt in a wound, I just like leave it. And I trust that it will find its partners somewhere in the ether in my subconscious or in the universe or whatever. And lo and behold, this happened when I was, snowboarding, and I just kept hearing Another Lifetime, and I kept hearing all these different things. And so then when we got back from this trip, it wasn't directly after we got back, we were working a little bit. Then a few weeks after I just brought the song back and started working on it. And I think Patty hadn't actually heard it before. I'd never played it for her because, we have so much music always in the works and so many demos. And she just overheard and she's like, what is this? This is awesome. And she, and then like anytime anyone would pass by the studio here in our apartment, they would just dance. They would just start dancing and the kids loved it. And so it just inspired me and made me feel like this was something good that I had to work on. And so I kept working on it. And yeah, it's interesting. It's, I would say you can hear elements of, other songs of ours in this. We have that thing running through our music, like whether it's The Way You Remember Me or When the Night or Help Me Run Away, that kind of really basic kind of like dun dun kish, dun 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 kish, dun dun, like kind of, it's kind of the rock and roll side of, the fast rock and roll side of St. Lucia. And it just makes me think of actually when I was writing Help Me Run Away with Jack Antonoff, and we were starting the writing session, and he asked, what do you sort of want to write? And I was like, I don't know, I'm feeling something maybe kind of reggae, whatever. And we talked about it, and he was like, I don't know, man. I think we should write something kind of like dun dun kish, dun 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 kish. And so it's just like this thing that runs through music, and it's a simple beat. I think it's similar in a way to this like disco bass line that everyone uses, where the beat's like dun and everyone's dun 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 dun, like that kind of thing. It's just like a thing that works over a lot of beats, and it's groovy. And so this is kind of a good kind of classic rock and roll way to go, I feel. In terms of the message of the song, I think to almost anyone that pays attention to the world around them, the world feels very divided these days. They're just not just divided, just it feels like people are just living in very separate information bubbles and have very strong opinions one way or the other. It seems like people are less willing to accept ideas that are outside of maybe what they think is right or true, or to even listen to them. And to me, it's like really important to be able to hear what people say, even if you disagree with it, and to allow those things to be said, and it's, in a way, it's the irony of being tolerant is that you have to allow intolerance. And sometimes that intolerance comes and it will destroy you, but to truly be tolerant, you have to allow intolerance. So if there is intolerance in this world and you disagree with it, it's better to, I think, seduce people away from that intolerance and make them want to come join your awesome party than it is to bash them over the head and try and like destroy them. So this song is kind of about that idea of people living in separate realities in their minds, and also just some of the ridiculousness of the world that we live in, whether it's, nothing against it, but like, cryptocurrency, just like some of the crazy things in our world that have a bit of good and bad in them. I think a lot of things in the world have both good and bad. Nothing is purely good or evil. Yes. So I'll show you guys a little bit of what makes up this song. So here in the beginning, Obviously, we have just this drum machine, which is basically an 808. I think it's going through an amp as well. I might be wrong. So very simple. Actually, this might not be filtered. I think in the mix it's filtered. Again, this is not Chris Zane's mix that's on the record. This is just my working mix. So there we go. That's going. And then I have these like spring hits. That's my Knas Ekdal moisturizer over there. And it's so cool because you can just play with the springs up at the top and it just sounds kind of like explosions. So there's that. And then we have some claps going on. Classic. Almost every St. Lucia song has claps. I just love them. Such a good layer. So hang on, let me just move this over here. So congas, of course. Almost every St. Lucia song has congas. I just love percussion, you know, percussion is my jam. It truly is. Tambourine hits not on every backbeat, every second one. I think there are points where it comes every backbeat just to add some pace. So like sometimes in the verse I'll have it less often, and then when it gets to the chorus, if you need a bit of extra pace, I just add it to every backbeat. There's rhythm tambourines that come in sort of only in between these the acoustic guitar hits and the "We're all living in a separate world." To me, that's kind of Motown. You know, there's a lot of that in Motown. Living in a separate world. I think in the mix it's on the opposite side. We have cowbell, of course. A lot of cowbell on this record on the backbeat. Again, it's just like, it's a bit of a wink, you know when you're doing it, you're doing the like more cowbell thing, but it just, sometimes it's undeniable. It just helps with pace. You know, it's in a lot of Latin music. They have that cowbell as well, just the guy like doing basically the click track. We have the synth bass, bunch of different synth basses in this one. So we have, especially from the midsection, we have a huge synth bass thing. So this is the direct synth bass synth going through my Ampeg SP12, either Dimension D or H3000 chorus on it for width, the H3000 fuzz, space echo, yeah, you know, all those things just add a bit of something to the bass line. So, and then I did another bass synth take where it's like, I'm playing with the resonance and the opening of the filter, so you get this like... So you hear that, it just adds a bit of like a spacey thing. A lot of that kind of stuff in this song. And then, you know, as we get here to the breakdown section, there's this whole other multiple octaves of the bass synth that come in. So there's like one octave higher and then another octave higher. And in each of those, there's like 2 octaves going on. Like, so on my mini Moog, there's basically, you know, there's 3 oscillators. So you can have one at 1 octave, like, so there. And then you add the other octave, 1 octave up. And then you can do 3 octaves, but I normally like 1 octave and then 2 octaves. The next one is just this 16 here. And it, just like with a bit of rub on it, you know? You know, that kind of thing. So yeah, so this is how it sounds. You know? And then obviously there we have the drums come in at one point, and this is Dustin playing with an uncharacteristically high and tight snare for us. Like, we don't often use the high and tight snare vibe, but on this song we did, and it feels really good somehow. There we go. She's rocking. There's some bass piano hits here and there that come in a little bit, and reverse piano. Love bass piano. It's always has this little bit of Phil Spector quality to it, a little bit, or Motown, or disc. I mean, there's so many great classic records that use bass piano in a really great way, and it feels a bit orchestral, you know. So here we go. Where does it come in? You know, just little like swells of bass piano. And then we have, I forgot about the vibra slap here. There's vibra slap, of course. Vibra slap's always super fun. Where are the tom things? Oh, here. Yeah, so we have, so I took a section of the breakdown and I sort of added it here to the chorus that it kind of swells into. That sort of swells in there. And then we have piano. There's actually, funnily enough, very little CP70 in the song. It's mainly like upright piano. So here we go. We have piano, we have the piano room in mono, we have chorus on the piano and the space echo. So also makes me think a lot of CD sound system. Here we have an ARP that's going bum, 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 bum. You can hear it better here, I think. You just have a lot of things doing that, like what note? E. You have a lot of things doing that, like E. Ma, ma, ma. Just suspense, 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 suspense. Just keeping you in suspense until the bass line changes at the end and it finally goes with the chords, and you're just like, oh my god. Here's this was a Jupiter 6. This was the studio I was working out of in Brooklyn at the time. Had a Jupiter 6, and I didn't yet have my Prophet 10, and I basically only had my Juno or the Jupiter 6, and the Jupiter 6 was used on some stuff. Honestly, not my favorite classic synth. I ended up not using a lot of Jupiter 6 sounds, but this is one of the Jupiter 6 things I used. You go, Juno as well. Selena. We have a Selena bass that comes in here in the bridge section that gives it this kind of like, let's hear that sustained E. And then we have a B3, of course. I mean, this song has so many layers, I don't know. It sort of doesn't feel like it in a way, but it really does. And yeah, this song just kind of, it has this sort of, you know, definitely Genesis a bit of Bruce Springsteen, that kind of 80s world of, also We Didn't Start the Fire, obviously. I don't know, it speaks to me of a lot of classic songs. And I just love the sound that it is. It's sort of a good contrast to our sort of poppier sounding stuff, I feel. Also we have a Farfisa organ going. And the Farfisa to me always feels like, you know, like 60s kind of the Zombies or, you know, like here, I'll just solo it for you guys so you can hear the Farfisa. You know, especially this bit. It's just so, it's so comical, but it just, I don't know, it gives you a little bit of a wink, you know? And then obviously we have the drum vocoder. Another trick that I was using a lot on this record, and here you can actually see in a lot of the other sessions I have it already bounced down, but here we have, you can see all the tracks that I have. So it's one low octave, one high octave. Selena is the carrier signal being triggered by the drums, a bit of space echo to give you that extra rhythmic element, and then chorus to give it width. So I pan the low one, like I pan them opposite, but the choruses are all in the center. So it's like, so that's the vocoder, you know, just tucked in there a bit. And then we have this melody that comes in. To me, this was like one of the biggest things that I came up with when I was like snowboarding, and the song was just going around in my head, and this was one of the things that was added that I feel like really lifted this chorus section a lot. That thing, and there's a CP70 doubling that. There's also a guitar doubling that somewhere. Where is it? Here. So yeah, a lot of stuff doubling that sound. Yeah. I should actually label this with my Rickenbacker because the Rickenbacker wasn't used much on this record, but this was a Rickenbacker. I'll seem to remember. So yeah, so we have just some like guitar harmonics going ding, 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 like that. To me, this is like, I just think of like Zoo Station by U2, the first track off Achtung Baby. How he's just going, that's the first sound you hear on Achtung Baby. Ding, 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 meow, dow, dow. That's like the start of Achtung Baby, and this is. I'll just see if I can solo it. Just that. It's just that through the whole song. It's just in there. Kind of crazy. And then, guys, I got some random like news samples that come in here in the breakdown. Just to try and communicate the media saturated world that we're in. And it all comes in. You hear all those voices speaking to you. You hear the helicopters. You hear the bombs. You hear all the crazy stuff. So yeah, this is it. So I'm gonna just solo this. Yeah, guys, that's it. All the media. And then what else do we have? We of course have the acoustics. Acoustics, huge part of the song, probably more so than any other song on this record. Especially here again. It's just so Buddy Holly to me, you know? Or something. I didn't even know. Is it Buddy Holly? Is it something else? I'm not sure. Okay, and then we have my vocals, which again has this whole crazy effects chain on it. There it is, dry. Space echo slap, longer space echo, spring reverb, Knas Ekdal, delay throw that I always do with the H3000. Yeah. There's these doubles on the chorus. And then we have, I'll come back to the vocoder. So here's Patty. So that's just unison, like very simple, no harmonies on that bit. It just didn't feel right to have any harmonies there. But then on the there's harmonies that come in. So it's, pre-chorus too. Here's one. Then we have these oohs, which to me, along with the, I mean, there's so many. Look at them, and each one has its own space echo track. I'm insane, guys. But I like it. This to me is like, you know, Tina Turner in a way. It just feels like Tina Turner or something. This. Quiet, but then they come in. There's this weird, like, counts melody that comes in here towards the end. Just like goes like round and around and around and around. It's barely there, but let me just solo it for you guys and you can hear it. Yeah, super loud. Okay, and then, so then the last thing I really wanted to show you guys soloed is this vocoder, which is in the chorus. I kind of wish it was louder in the track, in the final, but so that's pretty much everything that's in the track. A lot of stuff in the song. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that little run through of our track Separate World from Utopia 1.